Hi, everyone. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Lonely dreams, lonely streets, broken dreams. A midnight cowboy analysis. What better way with this grimy film noir movie than to have my background in black and white? This is a movie that I first saw in 1979 when I started college. And I went into a sociology class, and the first class was probably three of the professor's classes in one auditorium. They passed the syllabus around. He spoke for about 10 minutes, I believe, and said, "You're going to watch a movie, and the next class will discuss it." And for 2 hours, we watched Midnight Cowboy. My first impression was, wow, this is college? How cool is this? Hey, Emmanuel. But this is when I walked out of there, I didn't know what to think. I was 18. The movie was only 10 years of age at that point, but I had never seen those characters. And I had seen New York, but not the grimy part of it, the part of going to see Beatlemania a year before. But this is a movie that defies logic, okay? Because it's a buddy drama. 1969, Hoffman fresh off The Graduate. Great, great ensemble cast. Brenda Vaccaro is in it. But John Voight and Dustin Hoffman do John Schlesinger proud, the director. It was written by Waldo Salt, and it was built basically upon the premise of a novel which came out a few years earlier by James Leo Hurley. Now, it won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay. It was rated R originally, and then it was rated X for its treatment of adult subject matter. Now, the matter was gender bending gay men and other people who were deemed degenerates, the seedier side of New York City. Mid to late 70s, it depicted New York City pretty much the way it was. And it was considered a little discomforting to moviegoers at that time. Maybe they didn't want to realize that that was really where they lived, that they were in New York. Ultimately, the film is relatable because it was an exploration of the times and themes: loneliness, fantasy, disassociation with drug use, the escape from the ugliness of the real world, melancholia, poverty, alienation. Many of us have suffered from that at one time or another. No one understands us, right? And there's a reoccurring manic defense against all this depression and guilt and all the sadness. And this film reeks of sadness. Now, there are some great quotes in this movie. A lot of rich woman back there. Ralph is begging for it, paying for it too. um, there are some great lines by some middle-aged women. You look real nice, lover boy, real nice. Make your old grandma proud. Joe Buck as a kid, flashbacks throughout a lot of this movie. His grandmother, which was seedy, and there's a hint of sexuality and probably abuse. You're going to be the best looking cowboy in the whole parade, Sally Buck said to Little Joe. So there were so many moments that were captured. The best moment was one that was ad-libbed when a cab almost hit Dustin Hoffman. And he said, "Hey, I'm walking here. I'm walking here." That was a real scene. And they kept the camera going. Hoffman almost got hit. Hoffman bangs on the car hood. "Up yours, you son of a bitch. You don't talk that to me that way," or something like that. "Get out of here." Actually, it's not a bad way to pick up insurance. That's what Ratso Rizzo said to John Voight's character, Joe Buck, and that was ad-libbed. The X on the window means landlords can't collect rent, which is pretty convenient because it's condemned. Got my own private entrance here. Ratso does everything to be what he isn't. A broken down vagrant, ill, probably suffering from TB, but we don't know that. Now, you look at this movie and you wonder, what does it all mean? Now, Nilsson's song, which he didn't, many people think Nilsson wrote this song. He didn't. He got a writing credit, best vocal performance. Everybody's talking. Now, that's heard while Joe is merrily walking along in his cowboy outfit, carrying his suitcase and radio, small transistor radio. Even if he's been given warnings about the problems he might have in New York, a city he's never been to, one that he's totally out of his element. But Joe wouldn't listen. His dream was to go to New York and make money on rich women because he was quite a stud in his little hometown of Texas. His fellow dishwasher, Ralph, asked him, "What are you going to do back east?" As if anticipating that Joe's future problems are going to happen. But it doesn't occur to Joe. He's not too bright, in his early 20s. Ralph warns an elder black man, a cook, in the kitchen that, although you've never seen him before this scene, probably a mentor to Joe a bit. So Nilsson's song, "Everybody's Talking at Me," I don't hear a word they're saying, only echoes in my mind. Well, you'll see that Joe really doesn't listen to anyone, and the echoes in his mind may be the flashbacks that are prevalent throughout the movie. Joe won't heed any warnings. He won't let you leave his love behind, right? He was that stud. His love of being famous in New York, one hell of a stud. Now, his fantasy is based in pain. You can see he's escaping from a very painful past. His mother giving him up as a child to his grandmother, the late Sally Buck. His relationship with her was a strange one, very superficial when it came to loving. She'd often leave him alone in the house, blowing him a kiss, dropping off a few dollars for him to be with a new beau. She was always looking for someone. The drunk Woodsy Niles, that was the guy's name. Sometimes she'd lie in bed with little Joe and kiss him. Did she sexually abuse him? Not sure. Is that why he wants to prostitute himself to elder women? Could be. Whatever was going on between little Joe and Sally, it's certain that the family relationship was pretty much a failure. You don't need that to think about. But Schlesinger thought, why not? Her unexpected death when he was returning home from the military has only increased his feelings of isolation. His sexual relationship with Annie, a girl with a reputation for being promiscuous, boys lined up to have sex with her, was also a failure, and that contributed to his loneliness, as we see throughout the film with a few flashbacks. For those boys who lined up for her grew jealous that her preference was to Joe, so they get revenge on both of them by surprising them both in the car. They gang raped her, forced Joe to watch, and there was a scene where they had him with his legs spread over the hood of a car. He was nude, and you wonder if anything happened there as well. His trauma was negligible. Her trauma resulted in her being institutionalized, and Joe was alone again. Throughout his life, it seems like sex is a commodity for him, an exchange value rather than a part of a valuable relationship with a mate. So Joe really can only find pain and loneliness in Texas he's grown up in. So he has to leave to escape it. His dream of being a desirable hustler, big ego and his defiance against the depression he'd feel from facing the pain. Now, when I saw this in my sociology class, I was young. When I saw the movie later on, I actually did a paper on the movie in grad school. Now, and that was for the human conditions, psych, what a 201. The manic deference as part of his infant's dealing with the pain of transitioning from a bad mother to the split mother object in his mind, which is the grandmother. A depressive position, guilt over hostility, fear, hated being taken away, his wish for reparation, maybe when an infant realizes that the mother is a mix of good and bad aspects, right? Uh, but you could feel that at any point of your life at one time or another. Joe Buck deals with his pain through the escape in sex. Now, one aspect of this, which we can see with Joe, the denial of his sensations of depression, the sadness, um, the sensations that he goes through, is chaotic. And he brings that a lot upon himself because he doesn't want to deal with the real world. So, in order to protect himself from the pain of his childhood and failed relationship with Annie, who was institutionalized, he must assume that opposite feelings, hope, enthusiasm, excitement, and joy, he has to find that to evade the loneliness. He has to find the opposite, to be close to as many people as possible. So close to be intimately close, his naked body rubbing up against others in sex to avoid the pain of reality. He's constantly daydreaming because if you're daydreaming, you're not thinking of the real world. He lives in a fantasy world, living inside his mind because his mind is less intrusive than the sobering outside world that he definitely deals with, right? Now, his loneliness is accentuated as well through his experience with others on the bus. He takes a bus ride, whatever, 30 hours or whatever, to New York from Texas. He tries to chat with the driver, ignores him. Young women that are on the bus, teens, laugh at him when he walks by because he has a cowboy hat on, big boots. And although he's in Texas, where you see most people dressed like that, they're laughing at him. So he's an over-exaggerated cowboy, total cowboy outfit. His radio's in his hand. The only person who shows him any real interest is a little girl who plays some peekaboo with him. And it's not an appropriate client for his services, right? Because he's going to be a stud. And it almost shows you the girls wanted nothing to do with him, and a little girl is laughing at him. So even she thinks he's foolish. Wherever he sees himself in the mirror, his hotel room, it's like a YMCA, he sees a handsome cowboy. But he knows he's not a real cowboy. The mirror, he sees his ideal ego, unified, cohesive, but not the ideal I, as they call it, only an illusion. And in the mirror, he's awkward after he stares at it for a second because he's fragmented. He's an unhappy guy. Now, this guy in real life would be really a slave to menial labor, dishwashing, lacking in glamour. That's what he was doing in the restaurant that he worked at with Ralph the cook. He was bussing tables, I think. But he's run away from that. He doesn't give his boss notice. He just goes there, gets his paycheck, and leaves. He quit because of the nature of the job, not glamorous. It alienates him from any sense of pride in his work. But he thinks he could be a great lover and satisfy women because the girl that was institutionalized, you're the best, Joe, you're the best. You see that throughout the movie. and alienates him from everybody, his coworkers, his boss, meaning of life. He hopes that this cowboy image will restore everything that he's been alienated from. But he's going to find that he gets even more alienated in New York. He wanders the streets. His money's running out. Probably had a few hundred with him. He got kicked out of his hotel. They kept his goods. He walks by a restaurant, sees the dishwasher through the window. Probably a reminder. A young blonde who's very frowning look. Could be him, could be his twin. His reflection in the glass is seen beside a dishwasher, which means that that's what he is, the identity to each other, right? His false self and true self are tragically exposed. Psych 101. Now, upon his arrival to New York City, he's been walking around trying to connect with female clientele in their 40s and 50s. No success. The only success he had was with a call girl who expects him to pay her. So the big question ringing in his head and in the viewers by now after 40 minutes, where did Joe get this idea that scores of New York women would want to pay him for sex? Magazines? Finally, he meets Ratso Rizzo, Dustin Hoffman, in a bar. And this is the one time we see the con man cripple dressed well. For his first impression, Joe gets him as a false self. Ratso is probably what New York has to offer. For the most part, though, throughout the movie, he's very scruffy. And Ratso is getting sicker and sicker every scene. So Rico is Joe's double. A cowboy and a streetwise man with connections, both trying to escape their wretched condition. One's condition is mental, one is physical. Now, as Joe's chatting with Rico in the bar about a disastrous hookup with a call girl, I believe the call girl was Sylvia Miles. You'll know her. She was the real estate agent in Wall Street. And Rico is pretending to help Joe to get management. He needs management. You're in New York. And we hear the song, A Famous Myth, by the group playing faintly in the background. And it's a famous myth that anyone beyond the 1% will ever fly so high, right? Or in New York. And that goes double for Joe's fantasy of being glamorous, being a street hustler, or Rico's fantasy of living the good life in Florida, which he mentions right from the get-go. I'm here temporarily. I'm going to go to Florida. So throughout the lyrics of the song, which you could hear faintly, the sadness in the music, the longing, the defiance. So as Joe and Rico are talking and walking down the street on their way to Mr. O'Daniel's place, we see Rico limping, and they show his feet. One looks like a clubfoot, but really crippled. In the famous scene, like I said, walking across the road, I'm walking here, opposed to him limping. Almost a wish fulfillment that he's not limping, I'm walking. And we see later in a Florida fantasy when we see him actually running on the beach with Joe Buck and beating Joe Buck running. Now, John McIver played Mr. O'Daniel. Great character actor. That's his would-be connection that Ratso sends him to. And he feels it's with elder female clientele. But he's wearing a bathrobe with a maniacal grin. Daniel comes across as some kind of sex pervert when he says, Joe, you'll need a strong back. I'm going to work you. We wonder, what's this? As it turns out, O'Daniel is lonesome. What leads to alcoholism, crime, drugs, sex addiction. And he fixes it with religion, and when he opens the bathroom door, there's an altar on the back of the door. Prayer, even in the toilet stalls, will cure sadness. So religious is suffering. It's one and the same, right? Marx said that about religion. So Joe, whose childhood traumas remind him of the excess of religious fanaticism, runs out of the apartment, escaping pain again. In his mad search for that cheat Rizzo who set him up, Joe disassociates. He's dreaming of finding Rizzo in a subway. He wants revenge. Joe remembers the rape scene with Annie's terrible rape. Religion, everything is mixed into these dreams, hallucinations, a cure for sadness, right? Later, Joe's money runs out and he's kicked out of the hotel room. Private poverty, right? Homelessness, exactly the opposite of capitalism, which he came to New York for. And Joe has now joined Rico as a failure, but one's a mental failure, one's a cripple. Joe resorts to gay prostitution. Now, in the novel, he's indifferent because he has been a victim of homosexual gang rape, evidently with the girlfriend. They did that to him as well. You don't see it, but the movie insinuates it. He allows a young man to perform oral on him in a movie theater for $25. It turns out the boy doesn't have the money. Joe tries fantasizing about sex with Annie to get excited during the oral while watching the movie. His feelings of degradation are terrible. It's mirrored by the science fiction movie Playing, where an astronaut is cut off from the spaceship, depriving him of oxygen, drifts off lost in space. Joe feels lost, right? His dream of being a lady-pleasing stud is kind of losing oxygen. You're with a 17-year-old boy. The spaceship comes apart in two halves. That signifies castration, probably, the severing of all connection of his dream of being a stud. So since now he's engaged in gay male sexual activity, kind of a loss of manhood, the cowboy stud is no more, at least in his mind. And the irony in Joe's belief of a John Wayne stereotypical ideal ego sense of a cowboy in the mirror, Rico disillusions him, saying that only gay male prostitutes dress like cowboys because on 42nd Street you'd see them dressed that way. And he's self-loathing a bit. Rico has his own defenses, though. Apart from being a con man and thief who has an apartment in an abandoned building, as Joe dreamt of leaving Texas and actually got there to find out it would be no haven in New York City, Rico dreams of leaving hell, which he concludes has been New York, to a would-be paradise of Florida. Maybe he's seen brochures of Florida, who knows? So just as Joe has painful relationships with his neglectful mother and his grandmother, who suddenly died, Rico suffers the memory of a disappointing of his late father, a shoe shiner, who was even dumber than Joe, and whose headstone would say, "One big lousy X," just like the building he and Joe are squatting in. They'd been condemned by City Hall, pretty much both of them, not only the building. Part of the bourgeois state that protects private property and throws people out like Joe and Rico if they haven't made enough of themselves where New York can deem, okay, you're part of us. Now, the loss and the traumatic disappointment in parental objects resides in splitting of the personality. And this is what I wrote about in my post grad stuff. A lot of similarities, almost that they fall in love with each other because they're the only two that can trust each other. No sex, something deeper, a connection. Um, Joe's pursuit of older women as clients represents the object configuration, while Rico's misanthropic take your hands off me at a party that he represents the latter, where he just you wouldn't want to touch me, right? You have a lot of fantasy in this movie, although you think you're seeing normalcy. There's a lot of psychological ploys here: central ego, ideal object, ideal. Fairbairn's concept of the central ego, a lot of libidinal retreat into the world of excitement. It's all scholastically driven. But one comical scene shows Joe and Rico in their non-heated home, probably the fourth or fifth floor of an abandoned building, where they can see they're starting to tear down the buildings around them. Shivering in the winter and dancing to a commercial jingle on Joe's radio about Florida orange juice on ice. Pretty much the dream on ice, right? His Florida dream is on ice, literally. An icicle hanging from the tap water sprout that you see in the kitchen. So it's a cruel joke that he even has to hear in a jingle. They try to escape in the form of a party held by artsy people. They walk into a candy store where they're having coffee and they see Joe Buck's face, and I guess good looking guy, they feel he'll be a good addition. So Hansel and Gretel McAlbertson are the artsy siblings. At this party, we see the difference in the degree of success and failure with Joe and Rico. Uh, Joe has a joint that he thinks is a regular cigarette. He's given a pill, an exciting object. Rico, on the other hand, stealing food from a buffet that's free. And someone says, "Why are you stealing the food? It's out." And pickpocketing guests. Elephant's Memory, one of the bands that John Lennon used in New York in the early 70s. Old Man Willow is heard in the background, a psychedelic song. That was actually very good. You should check it out. Maybe I'll actually put it on my shorts tonight. So a woman Hansel was filming, because this is like an art project kind of thing. I love everything in the theater. I would like to die on stage. Of course, the theater is staged illusion, right? An escape from the pains of the real world. Isn't that what Joe's looking for? To die on stage, the final happy coincidence of death and vice versa, life. So Joe briefly escapes into euphoria of drugs, and he ends up scoring with a woman guest, Brenda Vaccaro, an exciting object. At the party, pretty woman. But he's also worried about Ratso Rizzo's health declining. He's fallen now a couple of times and stuff. He's coughing in the house. And maybe this, along with the marijuana and the pill, inhibits him, and he's not able to get an erection for the woman in her bed. And you see the terror on his face, like, this never happened to me. Hints of possibly he's gay and he can't come to grips with it. You can symbolically, with Joe's erection, Joe's failure, so to speak, can't use this arm, to get it up represents his failed escape through sex. So it's not working, being that stud. He's not escaping his life. Rico never succeeds in owning his sadness, especially on the bus ride to Florida, which they finally get on a bus ride to go there. He's so joined with Ratso Rizzo's character that you don't know where one ends and one begins. Rico won't accept the reality of his worsening illness. He'd rather be sick and risk dying in sunny Florida than to get well in a New York hospital, which could lead to cops and maybe his incarceration. He's probably wanted. Desperate to get money, Joe assaults and possibly kills a client to steal all his money. From 42nd Street, the guy spots him in the street and tries to pick him up as a male hustler. The beautiful sight of bright, sunny, warm Florida, Ratso's defense against everything, much like the sunny Texas that Joe escaped from, is contrasted with the decline of Rico's health. His body's in pain. He wets his pants. He's sweating all over. Psychological disintegration, physical, probably has TB. His body is projecting its self-hate, just as he was when he was robbing people, cheating, rejecting at the parties, right? There's a similarity between these two characters, but there's one critical difference here. With normal mourning, one loves the deceased. You mourn the love object, right? And usually they say the unconscious source of one's sadness comes from a mix of love and hate for the deceased. One internalizes the deceased. You hate the aspects because you know they breathe and live in you. People think of you the same way. Joe and Rico have mourned family members who were far from ideal in their lives, and they were hostile. Where he loved Sally Buck, he's a little hostile toward his grandmother now. Rico's father, Rico says he hated his father. So the Midnight Cowboy theme, first of all, the song Midnight Cowboy was brilliant. I loved it. Originally, it was played on Toots Thielman's chromatic harmonica, and it symbolizes the happiness and sadness perfectly. It's a sad piece of music. And the movie's whole message is that no matter how hard we try to escape our sadness and loneliness with pleasure-seeking fantasy, the only way that we can ever win is by confronting our sadness. Now, I look at this movie. Danae, there's a lot of things I could do. I'm just an idiot, but I'm a smart one. In the late 60s, this movie came out, and it was a significant turning point in art and culture, the 60s. We know the Cultural Revolution. I'm going to be teaching a course on it, the revolution of the 60s, my next semester, because look what you had: civil rights, Martin Luther King, the Kennedys, everything. You had art, fashion, teenagers finally felt that they could win and be someone. They didn't have to be their parents. Youth culture, the counterculture forces drove new ways of creative expression. And this was one of the movies. You know, many of today's artistic movements and genres were influenced by this era, because this era was experimentation, where now we are we can't do much now. We're so afraid of political correctness. So this film is an art form. I think Hollywood was undergoing a transformation at this time. You know, the period saw the emergence of new Hollywood era in cinema history. The traditional studio system had dictated, I don't know, production values for decades. New Hollywood gave directors more creative control, more innovative storytelling from the late 60s to the early 80s, right? It reshaped cinema. Midnight Cowboy stands alone as an early success. It exemplified, I think, a new approach to storytelling and taking a book and expounding on it. And sure enough, a year later, what'd you have? 2 years later, The Godfather, which was a book. Now, Midnight Cowboy expresses this era perfectly. It's bold, right? It's honest. It's delusional. It's the American dream. And when it was released, it became the first X-rated movie ever to receive an Academy Award for Best Picture. Had it been released in the late 70s, it might have been received more coldly. But in 69, that's what audiences needed. It was a very, very rough moment in American culture in 69. The optimism of the free-loving hippie movement crumbled after the Tate LaBianca murders put the Manson family at the center of national headlines for years. The Vietnam War dragged on for years, widespread outcry, no clear resolution. The country was still reeling from the violent death of activists, political leaders who were shaping the 60s, now shaped the decline of it, the progressive decade. I guess progression doesn't work because people get killed when they try it. The glitz and glamour of Hollywood that was associated, no longer confronted. And it didn't comfort audiences anymore because audiences saw the world crumbling around them. In 1969, who had a son that was a Nam? Civil rights, people getting killed. The perfect image that Hollywood represented on screen became a big scam. Spencer Tracy, Kate Hepburn, you're all full of crap. That's not the world. For 2 hours, we go to a movie theater and make believe it was. You ever go to a Rocky movie in the movie theaters, and after the movie, every young guy walked out boxing. I'm going to be a boxer tomorrow. I'm going to go to the gym. That's what people used to think for decades about Hollywood. People didn't want celebrities running around in fancy clothes on big sets anymore. Movies that are strictly entertainment didn't cut it anymore. We were too smart now. How could it? Art needed to connect with audiences in a real way. New Hollywood answered the prayers. Filmgoers didn't want to escape anymore. They wanted something to resonate with their feelings. Midnight Cowboy was there to say, you're not being dramatic. New York really does suck and it's hard. Don't worry. We got you. Joe Buck. He's stuck in a dead-end dishwashing gig. Some freedom to New York. A male prostitute. So right there you could see where his morals lie, and he didn't learn them himself. He realized the big city isn't as easy as he thought it would be. And on the verge of being homeless, he meets someone worse off than he is. That saves him and gives him a room in the apartment. The local con man who's ostracized by his own city. He's a New Yorker. New York hates him. And they have a complex business relationship that goes much deeper than either one of them ever expected. And that's what makes Midnight Cowboy Midnight Cowboy. They're bonded together in ways that we couldn't understand because we're not homeless. They're looking for the same thing, both in validation. Joe's outgrown his hometown. He sees himself as special as alluring because he was a big fish in a small pond. Once in New York, he expects everyone to treat him like they did in Texas. And he's very disappointed. Rizzo, on the other hand, just wants to be treated. He just wants to be an equal. His father was a shoe shiner. He lacks the self-esteem to see himself at the bottom of a social hierarchy. He has no idea what he is. He knows he's crippled. And they meet each other and they try to escape hell together. And they help each other. Or do they? Now, identity, I think, is a huge theme in Midnight Cowboy. Okay? Joe Buck wears his identity as a costume. Cowboy. Possibly gay. And because he was thought of as a great lover in Texas with one girl, because she liked everybody, but because she said he was the best, and if the guys are jealous of him, I must be good. He wears his heart in his wardrobe. He presents Southern upbringing almost as a character he's playing. He's a Texan. It's almost like he's on stage. What better place? Broadway. He's performing as a cowboy because he thinks people will be attracted to that. Instead, it just alienates him. He looks foolish. He escapes Texas for a better life. But Texas is all he knows. He uses his past to market himself. He finds that moving to the big city doesn't encourage personal expression. It just awards capitalistic conformity, and he can't conform because he can't make any money. He makes several connections in this film, but closes them off. Because if there's no monetary gain, he don't care. He completely loses his moral compass, fades into the underbelly of New York, which in the 70s was pretty disgusting. Rizzo, his identity's tied to his hometown. He prides himself walking like a New Yorker, talking like a New Yorker. He tries to teach Joe the attitude, what you need to make it here. He's proud of the city, but disgusted by the people who occupy it because they don't treat him well. He's an outcast. He's jaded. He's untrusting until Joe wins his heart. It's not to the very end of this film when he says he's dying that we see him let the mask slip. He's scared of the future and being viewed as obsolete. He rejected the city he grew up in, and his last move was an attempt to leave it, to go to Florida. How could an American have a life that sucks? And how could America suck the life out of that person? It can be brutal to watch this movie. I watched it last night again to do this. Two men buying into the American dream and getting castrated moment by moment. Every speck of hope is instantly dashed. And Schlesinger dissects America. And the diagnosis from the beginning is not too good in this movie. It's kind of bleak. It's not natural charm and a good attitude that gets you ahead in this country. It's usually luck. So 60 years ago, he knew that. These systems rely on Joe and Rizzo to keep spreading these dead-end dreams. And maybe other people will buy into this silly dream. And it's very sobering. It's really sobering. So this movie's abrasive when you watch it. And even in the editing, the blocking, in movies, blocking is where you stand in conjunction with the camera. Even the blocking is interesting because the characters are always a bit off to the side so you can see the ambiance of the city, the decaying city. When you see Dustin Hoffman, you see his decaying body with a decaying building. So the duplicitousness is the building being more condemned as you watch it as his health is. Almost every editing rule, I'm into the movies, is broken here. The inserts are very disorienting. That's what he wants. the merging of flashbacks with present day imagery. You think you're looking at a flashback, which you are, but it has an actual structure that he's in front of involved in it. The editing feels very 60s because it was, but it's also timeless because it stepped into a time that hadn't been looked at yet. Honesty, brutal honesty. The best way to describe what it feels like to watch this movie for me is to say that it feels like a dream. It could have been a dream and I woke up, but it fits. It's hazy. It's hard to decipher at times, like life, right? You go out on a Friday night with a girl, you take her home, you swear she wants to marry you tomorrow, she never calls you again. It's life. Many things shouldn't be answered. And it's a cliche of a way to describe it, but that's how I feel. And the end is really awaking you from the dream. The last scenes are you woke up. It's sobering. There's no crazy music. It's just Joe Buck's face with a dark reality that, wow, this is what just happened. And viewers, you've been watching this. Sucks, huh? They both ground the film in reality, Hoffman and Voight. Voight took minimum wage scale to do this movie. They looked at Warren Beatty, Michael Sarandon. There's fast-paced editing in a movie that goes slow. So you're racing in Joe's head in real time. That's what makes it so great. I think Voight scaled back the performance a bit, like an awkward false confidence that consumes his reality. Hoffman, although you think he's grimy and you hate him in the first scene, you end up loving him because their distinctive performances are great on their own, but they are Lennon McCartney together for 2 hours in this movie. They create magic. The chemistry, is it the film or the two guys, or is it perfect storm? Hurricane Katrina. It's a timeless story. Uh, it it is a reflection of the late 60s. It exposes the American dream and life as it still is present today. People were disconnected back in the 60s. We're in indifference now in 2026. Social media has changed our world in ways that most people don't realize. And in 20 years from now, like a good or bad president, we'll look back and we'll see how social media aged. Um, it's changed the fabric of how we socialize and with interaction. Class disparity only gets worse. Our youth are lonely and antisocial. Our youth are on Xbox playing games. They have 2,000 friends. They've met 3 of them. It's a ballad about life under capitalism. And for a second, you almost think that capitalism isn't any good. And it set the stage for movies like Taxi Driver with De Niro, very similar, grimy, gritty, dirty city, which was only 7 years later. The Last Picture Show, Panic at Needle Park, Exo and Al Pacino, 1970. All dark character studies in the same vein as Midnight Cowboy. Even more modern films, Brokeback Mountain, Dallas Buyers Club, feel 1960s. In fact, it's funny. Someone asked me about the 2 actors in Brokeback Mountain. What'd you think, Ben? I said, loved him, hated him. I really said that. So it showed what you can do within a film. You can destroy people and have them thinking for years, or they could walk out and forget about it. This one you thought about for at least minutes. It was daring at the time. They pushed boundaries. CEOs crossed their fingers and hoped that they wouldn't be out of business next year. Right now, we profit first, artist second. CGI is used for every movie. They don't care. they'll put out a movie that they would never watch at home, but for the masses. The art doesn't matter anymore. It's the bottom line, the dollar, capitalism at its best. There's a time for a revolutionary film movement to sweep the world again. I think it's now. Hopefully, there's some prodigy working on 2026's Midnight Cowboy. But until then, we have Midnight Cowboy to watch. Coming Home, good movie. John Voight is real good. I think it was TB, New Orleans. I think he had TB. Great movie, though. The music was brilliant. Danae, I'm glad you enjoyed this. You're becoming such a fan of mine. I love your kind words. Thank you so much. Hey, G, it's wonderful. Thank you for the kind words. Didiwango. Love that name. So, yeah, this is an amazing. Now, someone send me 99 cents because I'm going to lose my advertising, because I'm going to share some scenes with you and I'm not going to be able to be monetized. Going to show you this scene in the party with Elephant's Memory song. Let's see if I can get to the scene. Well, here's the song. I want to show you the scene, the religious scene. It's hilarious. Sad a bit. But it's over the top. Let's see if I can find it for you. Okay, this is great acting here. Really tremendous acting. This guy is a great character actor, and he did an amazing job with this. Joe goes up. He thinks he's going to an elderly lady for a hustle.
You must be Joe Buck.
Yes, sir, I am.
Come on in. Let's take a look at you.
Yes, New Orleans.
Turn round. Turn round.
Great acting. Listen, watch this.
Good strong back. You're gonna need it. Yeah. So you want help, eh? Yeah. Sit down. Sit down. Relax. Cowboy, eh?
Well, sir, I ain't a for real cowboy, but I am one hell of a stud.
Take it easy, boy. Seems to me you're different from most of the boys that come to me. Most of those boys are troubled and confused. I'd say you know exactly what you want.
Oh, you bet I do, sir.
Yeah. But I bet you got one thing in common with those other boys. I bet you're lonesome.
Well, not too. I mean, a little.
Lonesome. I'm lonesome, so I'm a drunk. I'm lonesome, so I'm a dope fiend. I'm lonesome, so I'm a thief. I'm lonesome, so I'm a fornicator. A whoremonger. Poop, I say, poop. I've heard it all. I've heard it all, and I'm sick of it. Sick to death.
Yes, sir, I can see that.
Lonesomeness. Lonesomeness is something you take you here. Damn it, you take it and you go right on with your work. That's all there's to it.
I'm ready to go, sir.
Yes, I believe you are. Cowboy, eh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Ready for some hard work, son?
I'm ready for anything.
Yeah. I reckon it's going to be a lot easier for you, Joe Buck, than for most others.
It's gonna be like money from home, sir.
Money from home. There's your strength, son. See? You've got the way of putting things earthy so anybody can understand them. I warn you, Joe Buck. I'm gonna use you. I'm gonna run you ragged. You're a wonderful boy. You and me, we can have fun together. It don't have to be joyless.
Hell no. Don't have to be.
Say, why don't you and me get right down on our knees right now? How's that strike you?
Where?
Right here! 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 Right now! Why not? Why not? I've played in the streets. I've played in the saloon.
That guy did a great job. What a great actor. Great actor. John Voight was terrific in this, and this really made his career. So it's a wonderful movie. I know I explained it ad nauseum, but you have to watch it because it does something to you. It makes you realize that you could take the boy out of Texas. You can't take Texas out of the boy. And you'll always be a little bit of who you were. You know, my dog recently died, and I'm suffering a great deal. Many people say, when the time is right, you get another, and you give them a wonderful life. That dog will never be Colby. And the only one that could ever bestow that on him is me. He has no idea Colby ever existed. So I could either love him for who he is, remembering Colby, like Joe Buck should have remembered Texas, but been in New York. So I think that for all of us that get, oh, I'm suffering terrible, Patty. It's really bothering me. Patty, I believe I got a sign yesterday. Colby is not a common name. I was on my friend's YouTube channel watching him. Yeah, not a friend, content provider. And listen to this. I was suffering. I felt terrible. I was really at my wit's end. And this is what I heard. You tell me coincidence or a sign? Listen to this.
Roger Pilgrim, how we doing? We got BB, how we doing, everybody? We got R.W. Davis, Mr. Infante, Jersey great member. If I miss anyone's name, please do not take it for that. We got Captain, how we doing? We're going up here. We got HT, how we doing? We got Brooklyn Blaze. We got my guy Jordan Simpson, who is absolutely chefing up probably an awesome jingle as we speak. Shout out to Jordan Simpson. Follow him on all social media, everybody, for the best jingles in Metsland. Shout out to him. They are the creators of our post-game jingle on the Word and Wine platform. Vinny, how we doing? We got Michael Smith in the chat. We got Truman. How we doing? We got Kid. We're going up the list here. We got Greg Gardner. I butchered the last name. I apologize. We got Anthony, Mr. Met, great member. We got Joe, great member. How we doing in here? Thank you so much for being here. We got Frankie, great member. How we doing? Ryan Hopton, great member. James Carroll, great member. Thank you kindly for chiming in. I appreciate you. We got Vinny Bronco with the $2 holla. Thank you, brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kobe, how we doing? We got Cole.
Vinny, thank you, thank you. Colby, how we doing? He doesn't know Colby. There was someone in his chat with that name. And right after acknowledging me, to me, that's a sign. Maybe I'm looking for a sign. I don't know. But who cares, as long as I saw it, right? So to put me back in living color, because that's what we do. There we go. I believe it is, G. I believe it is. Gina, I don't know if I told you. Oh, I did tell you. The night that he passed, I had to go out to New Jersey. And I was stuck in traffic on the bridge. I looked to my left, it's a canine unit with a dog picture on the side of the trooper SUV. And to the right, there's an Arizona license plate, and he was born in Arizona. He knows I need him. And I think he's showing me. I believe that, G. And G and Patty, thank you for being there for me. And God bless you two ladies. You are wonderful. And I pray that you have all the peace in the world. Danae, thank you, all of you. You're so selfless. And you make me feel so wonderful and so appreciated. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to put my songs on in a few minutes. And Gina, Patty, Danae, oh, I will. Okay, Fern, Renee. I will. Thank you, G. And New Orleans Soul. You guys are getting shouted out on my music shorts in a little while. Thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate it. I love you guys. And I will talk to you soon.